So what was my life like as an initiate? When I first got initiated, I could barely meditate for 15 minutes in a row. I felt like I needed to get up and do things. So for the first few months, if not probably a year, I was just meditating for 15 minutes in a row, and I would try then 20, perhaps half an hour was the most I could do at once. Eventually, I increased my time. When I was in India, when I lived in my master's ashrams in India, I was doing an average of 14 or 16 hours a day of meditation in the inner light and the inner sound. But this sounds like a lot, but that's exactly what I went for to an ashram, to meditate, to try to reach the goal. So yes, it's intensive. But otherwise, at the beginning, when I first got initiated, I did see some light, mostly darkness, and some movement. As I kept meditating, I saw more and more things. After 3 months, I saw the profile of my master during meditation. So I understood I was making some progress, which was fantastic for me. So I kept going. The meditation experiences did change with time. As I was saying in a previous lecture, they went from shapes to my master's profile, then other masters from the past, and then eventually I had a full movie going on here. It was a theme and things were going on. It was after 2 years that I had been initiated and that I had been practicing meditation. Not full-time, of course. At the beginning I was going to school, so I couldn't do more than half an hour perhaps a day for meditation. And I was not really that serious at the beginning, but then when I did become serious and I went to the ashram, then at that point I had been initiated for 2 years when I was taken out of my body for the first time. When I was taken out of my body, I was actually sleeping. It was not during meditation. But I remember for a while, for a few months before that event, when I closed my eyes, I saw an eclipse, a purple eclipse. That's what I saw in my meditation. I would close my eyes, sit for light meditation, and here was like a moon, and the purple eclipse. That's what I had for a few months. That day that I was taken out of my body, I remember I was sleeping, and I woke up because my legs were detaching from my body. And I went, oh no, I knew what was going on, right? It was going to be an astral projection. When I was a little girl, when I was 8 years old, I had a detachment, not full detachment, a partial detachment of my legs again. And I knew when I was 8 years old, I already knew, I thought I was going to die. And I begged Jesus, please, I promise to be a good girl, etc. Right? So I clinched with my physical hands, I clinched to the mattress when I was 8 years old. But my legs, they were like, if these are my physical legs, my astral legs were here, and these were my physical legs, and my astral legs were here. I could feel how my legs were up, and I couldn't believe it, because I would look at my body, I was sleeping, and I would look physically at my body. My legs were there, my physical legs were there, but I felt them like they were already, like they were already here. So I knew, I thought I was going to die. I knew the soul was detaching, but as a little girl, I thought I was going to die, and I didn't want to die. So I begged Jesus, but it was a long while. It felt like a long time. I don't know if an hour. It felt to me at least like an hour from this experience. So when I was in the ashram sleeping, that I woke up after I had got initiated, 2 years after I got initiated, I woke up again with the same feelings that my legs were getting detached. I realized I knew I was going to leave, especially after I had already gotten initiated. I had already been meditating. I had already been reading and studying and asking questions. I knew that was the natural thing to happen, especially when you are really doing it. At that point, I was already doing it intensively, full-time. I had left school. I was in university, so I had dropped out of university. I went into the ashram, and I was meditating full-time and doing seva, which is voluntary service. So I was really into the spiritual path. I really wanted progress. I really wanted to get to meet God. Like, I really wanted to do it. I was ready to do whatever was necessary to do it. And going to an ashram, doing it full time, was the obvious, or the next obvious step for me to give. So that's why I did it. So I was falling asleep. I felt my legs were detaching. It's a very strange phenomenon, because although you intellectually know what's going to happen and that that's what you want to happen, there's another part of you, at least that's what happened to me. Another part of me was terrified of the experience. I had never fully left my body before in full consciousness. So I was afraid, and so it was a battle. Part of me wanted, yes, here we go. And the other part was, no, what's going to happen? Luckily this time, of course, I didn't ask Jesus to keep me in the body. This time, even though part of me didn't want to do it, I just felt how my legs were detaching. So I was sleeping, and then the legs went up, then my waist, and then I just felt the full detachment from my head, from here, on my body. The next thing I saw, I was actually floating. I felt like a little, bubble, and I was just, I was floating in this universe. The universe was black. I didn't feel any fear or anything. I was there already. I don't know if I could have felt fear or not, but I was there. And I was surprised. I was not shocked, but really looking at everything. I was in a different place, and I could feel myself floating right in front of me. I had the purple eclipse that I was seeing in my meditation. So a lot of things started to click for me. A lot of things started to make sense. I started to understand what my master meant regarding the spiritual path. So it was very nice for me while I was there. When we get initiated with our master, we are told that we always have to keep the mantra, the repetition of the 5 names of the 5 mantras that we are given by a master, by a spiritual master, if we decide to be really serious about meditation, which I was. So I did get the 5 names. And so when I was outside, I was floating, I was heading towards this purple eclipse. I was repeating the mantra in my mind. All of a sudden, I was back in my physical body, and I remembered everything. Of course, I was awake. I was still in the middle of the night. And oh my God, this was so awesome. I was so happy. I was thrilled. It was such a great feeling to have done it. It's like, yay, I'm leaving my body. Finally, I'm leaving my body. Finally, it's getting more exciting. A couple of days later, the same thing happened again. A couple of days later, this was when I was 21, 2 years after I got initiated. Again, I was sleeping, and in the middle of the night, all of a sudden I feel my legs, like this, my astral legs starting to detach from the physical body. And again, even though I had enjoyed the first experience so much, part of me was thrilled that it was happening again. Part of me was terrified. So again, I had this struggle within me. But you know what? It's like, luckily, no one paid attention to the fearful part of me. The detachment, it's like my full body. Again, it took place. Again, I found myself in the same dark universe. And again, I found myself in front of the purple eclipse. This time, however, I was closer. Like the first time, I guess it was somewhere here. The second time, I was a lot closer to the moon. The second time I could see the moon, and I could see craters, and still behind the moon there was something purple. I don't know what it was, but I know in the spiritual planes things are not the same as in the physical plane. So even though the sun here, we see it as yellow or sometimes orange, doesn't necessarily mean there's not a purple sun in the spiritual planes. I wasn't questioning this at all. I was just heading towards, I saw the moon, the craters, and the purple, whatever was behind the moon was purple. And I was getting closer. However, this time, there was a voice in the universe. There was a male voice in the universe that was repeating the 5th word of my mantra. So as I was saying the words, the voice in the universe was only saying the 5th word. I didn't understand why. I remember at that point I found it strange. It's like, why did my master give me 5 words? And now that I'm here, the universe is just repeating 1 word. the fifth one, the one that's supposed to be the highest one, where we are supposed to achieve to get the fifth region, Sachkan, they call it in this tradition. So I thought, okay, my instructions were to repeat the fifth words. I am going to repeat the fifth words. Whatever the voice of the universe wants to do, it's up to him. It was a male voice. So as I was saying the fifth word, the voice of the universe said the fifth word. When I said the second word, the voice of the universe said the fifth word. And as I was saying the third word, the voice of the universe said the fifth word. So this went on. When I said the fifth word, the voice of the universe and me were both saying the fifth word at the same time. It felt really well. But again, I said my instructions are to repeat the five words. So I kept saying the 5 words. Again, eventually the experience ended. I found myself again in the body in the middle of the night, in my room in the ashram. And again, part of me was so happy, and it was really nice to have heard the voice of the universe repeating the mantra. Again, a lot of more things clicked for me. This is how the sages, the masters, the gurus, the real masters, the real gurus get the mantras, the ones that get them directly from the spiritual regions. They are given to them, they are clear. Okay? So anyway, a lot of things start clicking when you walk the spiritual path. Then, a couple of days later, the same experience happened again. Again, my legs, were starting to detach from my physical body. But then this time, I got a pain here. So everything was detached except for here. And I got a deep pain. I wasn't sure what was going on. So I remember thinking, oh, there's some pain I'm going to try to heal this part of my body, whatever is going on, so that the body can continue to detach. So I with my hand, I reached and I started to try to send healing energy. And then I realized it was my astral hand that was sending healing energy. My physical hand was there. I was moving and it's like, oh my God, this is my astral hand. So I said, anyway, just send healing energy. And I was trying, and at the same time I was pulling. I was trying to get my body to keep pulling up. It couldn't. As I pulled, the pain became more intense here. And I was trying, with my astral hand to give healing energy. Didn't work out. So my body came back into my body. Again, I had just a partial detachment in my body. The rest, my body came back, my legs, and I was really disappointed. I was upset. I didn't know why it had happened. And then when I came back with my physical hand, I said, what the heck is going on here? What happened? Nothing ever happened. That was the end of my first experience. Actually, the only one that I remember consciously, that I was flown out of my body. Years later, when I was with my master in India, he asked me about it, and I told him my experience, and he said, this experience was given to you to prove you that the path is real. You don't have to have it all the time, but this was just to prove you. Now keep going. So yeah, that's how I took it. I mean, he asked me when I was 21, so I was with him the first time when I was 22, 23. But this conversation, we didn't have this conversation until I was 25. So a lot longer. I didn't need him to tell me this, right? Like, I really wanted to meet God, and whether or not flying worked for me, I wanted to keep on going on the path, so I kept going. It was very nice to hear from my master himself to tell me, this is what happened, this is why it was given to you, keep going. So, along the path as an initiate, things start to happen. And not after years, almost right away, when you pay attention to your meditation, to your sound or to your light, when you're being mindful of what you're seeing and what you're listening to, then you start to pay attention to things. So automatically you begin to develop some skills, like intuition. So along the way, a lot of skills were developed. I developed them, not on purpose. I just suddenly noticed they were there. I was able to do some things that I wasn't able to do before, and that I didn't even try to do. It's just what happened. I noticed them. And so basically that was my my journey as an initiate, I really wanted to meet God. Since I was a little girl, I just wanted to meet God. I remember I used to cry, and I used to ask the wind. One day there was a storm, and I asked the wind, I was little, to please bring my message to the Pope. I was raised a Roman Catholic, and tell him that I want to be with him and that I want to be with God. I really wanted it. So as an initiate, I was into it. I meditated a lot. Every decision I made in my life that affected my physical life, I made it thinking, will this bring me closer to my goal? Is this something my master would approve of? Is this something God would approve of for my spiritual path? Every decision I made. So this was in general my life as an initiate on the path. I saw a lot of results, a lot of things that my master used to tell us about the path. They started to happen to me. I could verify that they were true. They were happening. So basically that's what it was, the main part. I will go in the next lecture and I will tell you specifically about the last few months before I merged, before my consciousness, my pure consciousness merged into the huge ocean of consciousness. That's coming up in the next lecture.